Cambridge and IB are sort of more practical and worldly and making sure that they understand a global perspective versus CBSE and ICSE, which are very old school and Indian. And you're also taught, for the lack of a better word, of how to apply concepts to solve problems. That's what IB and Cambridge does. CBSE, ICSE is not there yet. They're changing. One of the things that we found that works is restorative justice. Now, this is something that puts the responsibility of what the child has done wrong on the child itself. Social media is so bad for kids, and then you take the phone away for a day or a week, you just see them blossom so much more. They are more outdoorsy, they're more communicative. Eye contact, that is so important as a part of as being a human being.
When investment banker Shweta Sastri took over the reins at Canadian International School nearly 2 decades ago, her vision went beyond the business of education. She made it the first iPad school, introduced a new curriculum, and initiated renewable energy resources on campus. On this Expression podcast, the talented Shweta Sastri talks about her initial struggles to secure footing in the education sector, how she's hands on with the curriculum, and her love for sports, especially the Ironman. Let's get to the chat. Hi, Shweta. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, from investment banker to running an international school, what was it like? What prompted your family's decision to take over the Canadian School of India, and what was your role in that?
Basically, my grandmother was a teacher.
Okay.
So my dad and my uncle and all of them were always, she died very early. So they wanted to definitely have something to do with education at some point in their lives.
Okay.
And then the Canadian school, actually, it was started by two Canadians who came to Bangalore, and they started the Canadian School of India.
Mm-hmm.
And they were running it from 1996 till about 2002. And then my actually family's business is real estate.
Okay.
So we were actually located just across the school, one of our projects, and the boarding component of the school was housed in this real estate project of ours. So we got talking to the owners of the Canadian School of India and then realized that they were having a lot of issues and they wanted to close the school and pack up and go back to Canada. So at that point, the school had about 250-ish kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, those kids overnight would not have a school. This happened around Christmas. Right?
Yeah.
So we actually got involved with them. We acquired the school from them. And at that point, it was, like I said, in a very small, across the road from our project, it was a very small building. That was it was 2 or 3 floors, and that housed the entire school structure. And there was not really much of a facility or a campus, so to speak. So the current campus we acquired, the land, we purpose built it for the school, and then we moved to that campus in 2006.
Okay.
So it took about 3 or 4 years to just get this together.
Yeah.
After we acquired the school to inaugurate the new facility.
And what was your role exactly?
So I joined the school in 2006. So I've been now with CIS for 18 years. It's been a while.
Yeah.
So my role once I joined the school was just operations largely.
Okay.
Because we had just moved to a new campus.
Yeah.
There were a lot of issues with that. In addition to that, there was not really any oversight from the owner or management perspective onto in the school operations, because like I said, our main business was real estate, so we would always hire like a principal to figure out how to run the school, because education was not their forte. It was my father and my uncle. So when I got involved, it was basically trying to oversee operations, so that processes, procedures, things that you would bring from a management perspective, in terms of best practices for a school, would start happening. So that's where I initially started to get involved in in the school.
And what was your vision for the school at that point? And how was the transition from the Indian school to the international school?
So that was honestly, the transition was just a name. So it was Canadian School of India, and we wanted to differentiate ourselves a little bit from that. So we kept the name, Canadian in the larger scheme of things, and we made it Canadian International School. But that's just for the legacy that it was started by two Canadians. Nothing else about us is Canadian. So my vision for the school was basically the few things that I noticed when I joined was, it was a very expat heavy school, and then I joined in 2006 and 2008. The whole global collapse happened, and when that happened, we realized that depending and having so much dependence on expat population of students was not really the most prudent thing to do. Like they were actually my bread and butter, and then my stable base was my expat students, which was completely wrong. So the things that the conscious effort that I tried to make was try to make the school more relatable to the local population. Now, a few things happened with that. First of all, we were Canadian International School, so we were doing the Ontario curriculum. Now, what is Ontario? Where is Ontario? Who's going to understand that in Bangalore? So, trying to make it more relatable would be, trying to adopt a curriculum that is more palatable to the community. So, over the years, like it took a very, very long time. It took about 6 or 7 years to change from the Ontario curriculum to the Cambridge.
Okay.
Because Cambridge itself within India is quite popular. People understand, know what it's about. You don't really have to. In the previous avatar, I was trying to market Ontario as well as my school. It was just too many things that were not relatable. So once we became Cambridge, I think we became a little bit more palatable to the Indian community. And like I said, the whole dependence on expats and the way that we were structured before needed to change, because one global shock and the entire thing would just collapse, right? My entire student population would crumble. So consciously try to increase the Indian element. We were, like I said, 75% expat, 25% Indian. Today we're the reverse. 70-30 to be precise. In terms of Indian versus expats. So those are the two things that I immediately noticed when I came, and then it's taken years to actually follow through and make it happen.
But that's a good blend, right? I mean, there's a lot of learning for even the children when they have.
Yeah. So see, like a lot of schools call themselves, international schools, but what does it mean? Like it's not just some word you can use to say I'm an XYZ international school. But what makes you international? So I feel like that word, using the word international in the school's name, is a responsibility. It's not some privilege.
I agree.
It's something that it's not something you can take for granted. So you have to, just having international curriculum, like there are so many schools that have Cambridge and IB and say XYZ international school, but they have no, concept of what it means. So like having the entire mindset has to be of international education and pedagogy and things that work in the larger scheme of things, for you to be able to call yourself an international school. So of course mindset and pedagogy are very, very important in calling yourself an international school. Curriculum of course is just a given, but even your community, right? Like you can't call yourself an international school if you don't have an internationally diverse community.
Correct.
So we have, like for example, my teaching population is 50% expat, 50% Indian. That's the demographic of my teaching population. And of course, my students, like I said, were 70% Indian, 30% expat. So the whole way that we come across in terms of as a community as well, we are definitely that living and breathing international school out there. So that's something that's definitely differentiating in terms of why we call ourselves it's a responsibility. You can't just use that word just because you want to.
So what sets CIS, what is CIS way of learning, and what sets it apart from the other schools in Bangalore or other schools in...
So we've always been at the cutting edge of pedagogy and education. And when we say that, it's things like we are a part of the Common Ground Collaborative, which means that we again, education, research, and things that always at the forefront of what is the best practice in education. We've always asked ourselves that question and made sure that we kind of measure up to those standards. So, I mean, examples are things like, hands-on learning and making sure that it's just not a silly chalk and talk experience or a drill and spill, as you would speak, as we learned in school. It's just basically putting people in situations where they would learn better versus in a classroom where, it's not really as conducive to learning. So we have this thing called experiential learning, which is a really, really large part of the way we learn and teach at CIS. Everything is based on experiences. So, for example, if you take sustainability, um, we would pick up that concept and then walk around the campus and look at what all the things that the campus has to offer are in terms of measure up to sustainability. So um, everything that a lot of learning happens outside of the classroom.
Yeah.
A small portion of it happens within the classroom. So that's something that's definitely unique about CIS as a school, because hands-on learning, experiential learning is something that we thrive on. It's not even just a focus; we thrive on it. So that's something that's unique about us.
Nice. Did you face a lot of challenges as a woman when in this sector? And was there resistance from stakeholders? And what are the challenges and how did you overcome it?
So I was very young. I was
Yeah.
23 when I was put in the position of, well, at that point, executive director of the school, and very expat heavy community. They literally looked at me like I was a child, right? So whether it was the parents, whether it was the teachers, whether it was even like the principal, now we call him head of school. Uh, age was not on my side. B, I was a woman of color, right? So they had to actually report into a woman of color, which is not something that they actually found palatable at that point. So it was a lot of resistance. It was a lot of having to prove myself, which I didn't have a problem with, but I feel like the respect that got lost because I was a woman of color was not was not okay. And so parents at that point, right, a lot of expats, like I said, and very nascent stage, early times of school, and they they had a lot of issues with a lot of things because we had moved from an old campus to a new campus. A lot of chaos was happening, and
You had experience with your family business involving land acquisition and development. What was that like?
so initially when I started with the family business, started with the school, and then after about 6 or 7 years of the school, I mean, it started sort of becoming an autopilot. So then I had some more free time, which is when I started getting involved with the real estate side of it. So I'd done the entire circle of land acquisition, consolidation, registration, all of those paperworks to do with all of that. Then the whole RERA situation and concept that came into being a few years ago. I was very heavily involved with that within the business as well, because it was a complete turning point in the real estate industry. And then so over time, my role has evolved. My sister's come into the business. She's now looking at marketing for real estate. So I'm looking more of at the projects and operations, and a lot of it to do is actually with finance as well, because real estate financing is a very big part of
Yeah.
execution of your project. So that's something that now I
Yeah.
am more heavily looking.
So, what is your biggest learning from heading this educational institute?
Okay,
Institution.
many there are many learnings. I think for me, because I'm not a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the biggest learning was how to evaluate what it looks like, what good education looks like, and what a good teacher can do.
Mm-hmm.
So early days, I mean, I used to be involved in the hiring process. So it was very important to make the right choice,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of kids in their future are in the hands of the educators, right? So that I think was, even till today, it's still one of the most important decisions the school takes. How do you hire a teacher? So that's something that I think was key,
Yeah.
because everything depends on it, right? So the way teaching and learning happens on campus, that of course without a shadow of doubt, but inspiring students to aim higher than they think they can achieve, that's very important. Even it comes to college level, right? Like, so applying to universities, for example, how do you inspire them to push their limits in terms of how do they show that they can do and be much more accomplished than they are, so um, the whole gamut of teaching population comes into play here. It's an entire team that's working together with the students to make sure that they aim higher, achieve better,
Yeah.
get into good universities.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very critical decision on how and who you hire as educators at the school. So
Now, how did your academic stint abroad help in running the school? And also, would you like to give a background about your academics and education?
So after my undergrad here in Bangalore, I went to the UK to study investment banking. It was something I was passionate about at that point. So I did this master's in investment banking, and I came back and I worked in Bombay in ILNFS Invest Smart. ILNFS is a very critical, slightly difficult word to use right now. And then I did Morgan Stanley for some time, and then came back to Bangalore within 2 years of working in investment banking. So it wasn't really a large stint. And then getting involved in the school, I did about 2 years trying to run and manage the school, and then realized that having a formal management degree and understanding at a master's level would help with running and operations of the school. So then I went to the London School of Economics and did the master's in management. And my focus was a lot on education within that. So there were a lot of opportunities for research, which I used to focus on education. So that, I think that definitely helped in the way that I've managed and put things in place and processes with the school.
Okay. How different is it to run a school as compared to other business? Anything in particular that you found difficult to process?
So, okay, I just have two comparisons, right?
Yeah.
School versus real estate. So, very, very different industries. Uh, one is highly organized, one is just trying to get organized now. So, in terms of running a school versus being part of a real estate company, I think the school is for me, there was a lot to put in place in terms of things that and best practices that would take the school forward. I think people are at the crux of any business, right? So that's probably the most important decisions that you will take in any industry, anywhere. How do you get the best people, right? So that's a common thread between the two, but very, very different experiences in every single way.
Yeah.
Every single way. Yeah.
Nice. And in this business of education, how do you make students' needs utmost? Like, how do you take care of ensuring that their needs are addressed?
So I think the way that we are set up as a school is that teachers and students have a very good relationship.
Yeah.
Very communicative, collaborative, understanding relationship. It's not that
Open also.
open relationship. It's not like the students is ever going to be scared of a teacher in my school. That's absolutely never going to happen. The way that they relate to their teachers is almost like a friend, but when the discipline aspect and
Yeah.
the those serious aspects come into play, that of course has to happen. But their relatability in the way they communicate with the teachers is very, very conducive to make sure that we know that what the child needs is what the child is getting, right? Because a lot of things don't get communicated at home, and we feel like we have this platform to understand what the child is going through, or
Yeah.
very different backgrounds kids come from, right? So even our entire counseling setup that we have at school is actually every child meets the counselor. It's not that you have go to the counselor only if you have an issue. So the school counselors, there are three. There are obviously elementary, middle, and high, and they have to have connects with every single student just to make sure they're okay. Is there anything that they would like to talk about? You know, just for
Yeah.
us to understand,
Yeah.
how best to serve the student.
Yeah. So you're saying
Because
that.
we always said that the student is the center of our existence. They're the reason why we
Yeah.
even exist, right? So if we're not able to serve them, then we're doing a disservice to ourselves and to them. So,
True. So you're not one of those schools who just focus on academics, but on the
it's
overall
yeah,
growth of the.
growth and well-being
So you're saying if a child suppose is good at music, so you would encourage the child
yes,
to.
absolutely.
Yeah.
We have music right from kindergarten.
Yeah.
Like we have a band program before any other school in Bangalore had a band program. So yeah, I mean we're very actually heavily into the arts. We have great visual arts department. We have drama and theater, which are really core part of. Right from like in elementary school, like we have drama classes. So it's not only academics. We're very dependent, and we focus a lot on the arts
Yeah.
as well as a school.
So CIS has a long list of firsts, right? First IBDP curriculum school, first iPad school, use of renewable energy, eco-friendly initiatives. Who's the person behind this? Whose
I mean, I'd
vision
like to
was
take
this?
credit for it. Some credit does go to me, but we have a really good team. So I've always made sure like that we hire good people, so that the team that's making the school progress and taking some decisions is always has the best people in it.
Yeah.
Having said that, a lot of these things that you mentioned were things that I brought to fruition. I think sustainability is something that's really close to my heart. I think that's one of the highlights for me is that we became the first school in India to be 100% solar powered, right? So that happened in 2016. And that was something we did to mark 20 years of moving to the new campus. Sorry, 20 years of being, the school was established in 1996, and in 2016 we were able to actually go fully solar. And so, the whole concept of sustainability, we try to make sure that the kids on campus understand it. We have solar panels on all of our rooftops, and
So the kids see this as in
yes,
they
so
they are.
we actually do tours of the rooftops to show them, the panels, how they're set up, how do they work. They learn all of this obviously as part of their science and curriculum, but to see it in action is something
Yeah.
that helps uh, you know drive home the concept much better
Yeah.
than just
Absolutely.
reading about it, right? So we take them on the tour, we show them how the solar panels work, how much water is being produced by each panel, how these panels are coming together and electricity is getting produced. And the unique and nice part of our whole solar farm, so to speak, is that we produce more than we actually need. So all the extra energy that is produced, we send it back to the grid, and from there it gets distributed to homes and villages around our school. So it's not just us that
That
we're
benefit from
trying to
this.
benefit from clean energy. It's just everything that's extra goes to, and as a school, you're closed for 2 months in a year.
Yeah.
During summer and then a few weeks in Christmas, and so all of this extra stuff, gets back to the grid and it's being
Yeah.
generated and circulated around our campus. So that's something that we really happy and pride ourselves about.
So when you say first iPad, did you not face a lot of resistance from parents saying that it's screen time and
Yeah, we
so
we
how did
did
you?
face a lot, but I think we have to appeal to the side of the good things that actually come out of
Yeah.
technology in education. Actually, we've always been at the forefront of tech in education. So even with things like COVID, right? A lot of schools took a lot of time to switch from the sort of personal face-to-face interaction to, sorry, online education. And for us, it was seamless. because we had been doing this already. So that was one big advantage of being already within the tech space and technology and education. But the benefits of technology definitely outweigh the the negatives. Yes, it has to be definitely you have to make sure that you have certain limits on what and how long your child is using a device for. But that's the way the world is now. You can't live in a cave and think that should my child is going to be okay if they don't have a device. Or that's where the world is going now. You want your child to be relevant, competitive, out there in the world, and they have to, for example, learn for themselves what is good, what is bad, and that comes from obviously your teaching and education, but also a lot from home. So you have to have these rules about how much time you give them, what is allowed. And, we have this thing called mobile device management in school, which shuts off a lot of things during school hours. So we found ways to make sure that the device is only being used for education and learning during school time. So that's sort of helped with communicating with the parents and getting them on our side as well. But this is the way of the world now.
And how small, at what age do you introduce the iPads?
Grade 3.
Yeah, so are you going to be the first to have electric buses too?
So it was very cute. So there was a whole group of kids, I think elementary grade 4 or grade 5 kids, that came and made a whole presentation to the board about how we should have electric buses and how that's going to help. We're already a solar school. Why am I not having an electric bus fleet? It was very cute. I think because of that, we actually started thinking about it. Electric buses right now are still very expensive. But we'll try to get over the cost hurdle and definitely eventually go into electric buses. Sure.
You've introduced several eco-friendly initiatives at the school, going green and then a solar plant. How do you get children to take this responsibility towards the environment? What do they contribute and how do they how are they involved?
So we have a bunch of things that we do in terms of sustainability. We do, like I spoke about, the solar generation of power. We have this whole rainwater harvesting system that we use to store water and reuse it, recycle water. We also have sewage treatment plants. So all the grey water on campus, it goes into these plants. It gets recycled and goes into sort of using them for our flora and fauna on campus. We have this whole concept of biogas we use in our cafeteria. So all the cafeteria food waste goes into this biogas tank, and the bacteria within the tank and the process that it goes through sort of makes the biogas, and we have a pipe that comes out and burns one or two of the burners in our cafeteria. So we have a biogas tank. So we're doing green there as well. We also have this concept of composting. So we have 4 or 5 agas on campus, and there are agas are basically composting pits. So again, it's a process. They mix the food waste with cocoa peat and put it in one of the composting jars, and then after a few weeks, it transfers to another with more of things and bacteria that get introduced to react with it, and finally, the compost that comes out gets used in. We have an organic farm on campus, so the students actually get their hands dirty, make use of the compost, grow like we have a whole sale of things that organic food that was grown on campus. So lettuce or tomatoes or things like that were grown using this this organic soil that was produced from their own food waste, right?
Amazing.
So we try to get them involved in every step of the way to make sure that they are seeing and learning and imbibing and understanding how important it is to be able to do things in a sustainable way. And sustainability is very close to my heart, is definitely very central and core to my school as well. For sure.
And any story of a child that stands out who took this up really seriously or also implements it at home or anything like that?
So we had some kids do a project on, I think, water conservation. And they used our whole, rainwater harvesting, sewage treatment planting, things like that, to try to change a few things in their own apartment complex. Right, so they got together with as a group of kids within their apartment complex and tried to see how they could best save or conserve water.
Yeah.
So, I mean, things like this, when you actually see are following
Yeah.
through.
Satisfying,
Yeah,
right?
it's something really nice to see.
Have you evolved as a person since you took over took over the CIS?
Well, I mean, definitely, there's no way that evolution couldn't have happened. But yeah, I mean, I was very young when I started working in the school. I was probably very naive, and over time, a lot of things have changed. A lot of maturity has come in terms of decision making, in terms of people skills, in terms of communicating, in terms of making sure that um, your teams understand you. So over time, of course, that respect has been built as well.
Yes.
I have proved myself many times over and over again, and that has helped as well. So it's definitely shaped who I am today
Yeah.
in a large way. Yeah.
I know you look into the managing and administrative, but just a question, because you also are a mother of two. Most parents have this dilemma. They face this dilemma of which curriculum to choose for their children, right? Options like ICSE, CBSE, IB, Cambridge. How does one choose what is best, what suits their child best?
So, like you said, it's what you want for your child,
Yeah.
right? So the decision definitely depends on your family, what you want as best for your child.
Yeah.
So in terms of Cambridge and IB on the one side versus IGCSE and CBSE on the other, the teaching methodologies are very different. Curriculum also is different because the things that it incorporates within CBSE, I mean Cambridge and IB, are sort of more practical and worldly and making sure that they understand a global perspective, versus CBSE and ICSE, which are very old school and Indian,
Yeah.
for lack of a better
Yeah.
word. Both have their own advantages. Like, we've had kids from a CBSE ICSE background until 10th standard coming to 11th and 12th for IB and have really blossomed and flourished. But the whole way and methodology of teaching is very different. So for the IB, it's all practical application. You learn these concepts, but you also learn how they actually apply
In your
practically
day-to-day
in your
life.
day-to-day life. And you're also taught, for the lack of a better word, of how to apply concepts to solve problems. Not just in your day-to-day life, but also extrapolate them a little bit further and try to see how you can make a difference. That's what IB and Cambridge does. CBSE, ICSE is not there yet. They're changing. They're changing for the better.
Yeah.
CBSE has this curriculum called CBSE I, which is CBSE International, which is a lot different from pure play CBSE.
I didn't know this actually.
Yeah, so they are changing. They are trying to adapt to new ways of teaching and learning with pedagogy as well. But again, it depends. The question that you asked completely depends on what the family and the child want as their priority for their future.
Yeah. And what is your learning from students and parents of diverse cultures?
Nice question. So I think everyone has so we have this thing in school that we do is we have concept, competency, and character.
Okay.
The three things that we emphasize on LCIs. And every time we have this sort of orientation with the parents or things like that, we ask, it's a whole mixed bag of people sitting in the audience, and we ask them, so if you could choose one thing for your child, if it was concept, competency, or character, which one would you choose? 99% of the audience chooses character. Concept and competency just falls by. So everyone, regardless of where they are from in the world, which community they belong to, they want their kids to be good human beings. So that's one thing in common across cultures, across everything. They just want their children to have good character, be good human beings. They will study, they will have concepts, they will have competency, they'll be high achievers. All of that is secondary. So one thing that's completely common across all cultures is this focus on raising good kids.
Yeah.
So that's interesting actually.
Very.
It's something really nice.
Yeah. What changes do you think would you like to bring to the current education system in India?
I think access to education
Yeah.
is something that really needs to change.
Yeah.
It's been getting better, but the access really needs to change. Things like the government is trying, even things like right to education and the initiatives that they've taken up, but the way they're implementing RT is not. I mean, I can talk about RT for a while, but it's not the best way that they have tried to implement RT. But I think access to education is something that every child deserves, has the right to
Yeah.
education. So,
And what do you feel about enough budget allocation for the education sector?
so I mean, okay, this is a bit controversial, but I still say it. The government collects education cess, 2% ish from each business. Everyone pays education cess. That is supposed to go into public education. It doesn't reach there. So, if it just did get to where it was meant to be, we can transform India's education system.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a no-brainer.
So, if allowed, what would you do to help children in the government schools?
So we do things that we can at our level. Like we do a
Okay.
lot of social work with schools around our neighborhood.
Okay.
Government schools in terms of infrastructure, in terms of trying to help them with teaching and learning, and we involve our students as well. So kids go out and interact with these kids and like try to bring them some joy and teach them a few things. But that's the maximum that we can do at our level. Actually, even when RT came out, I didn't petition the government to allow us to acquire, I mean, to be responsible for, say, if I have 700 students and I'm responsible for 1,400 students in government schools around my area. That means taking care of their nutrition requirements, their education requirements, their infrastructure of their schools, everything. Again, coming back to RT, because of the way that RT currently in its format is putting kids from government schools into classrooms with kids that have everything. So psychologically, it's not the best situation for somebody who's from a humble background to be in and see all of these things around them. It can break you as a person, right? So flipping that across and trying to make sure that the best practices that we are using in education go into government schools, allow us to acquire, I mean, be responsible for X number of students in our area and improve teaching and learning and concepts and their life basically. I wish we could do that, but since our hands are also tied, we were doing as much as we possibly can within our locality to make sure that.
The proverb, spare the rod, spoil the child, was the old system of correction. What is it now?
Oh my God, a lot has changed. A lot has changed. I mean, you cannot you cannot be the school that Well, we were in school. There were very different ways of disciplining. It's so what we found that works. One of the things that we found that works is restorative justice.
Mhm.
Now, this is something that puts the responsibility of what the child has done wrong on the child itself. So, I did this. I have to stand in front of my classmates, explain what I did. Why was it wrong? Why should I be allowed back into the class? Uh, that gives the child that whole layer of, okay, I'm going to be held accountable for what I'm doing. It's not, I'm not getting spanked and beaten and it's over. That's
Yeah.
So taking responsibility in front
Yeah.
of your peers for something that
That's
you've done
huge.
wrong,
Yeah.
and then justifying why you should be allowed to stay in the class, or what are the steps you're going to take to make sure you don't behave like that again. So I think restorative justice
I love
is one of
this
the
actually.
one of the things that we've actually come up with that's working very well. Yeah.
So children these days are very smart, especially with access to technology and social media. Do you find yourself being challenged constantly to adapt to school's technique or process to ensure that the children learn what's right?
So, social media, when it's not on my time, I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
But on campus, like I said, we have this whole mobile device management, we call it MDM, where we switch off all these apps. So you log into the Wi-Fi on campus. Uh, you're automatically you're logged out of all of your Instagram and WhatsApp and all of
Okay.
that. Completely logged out. So during the time that you're in school on campus, you're focused on learning.
Yeah.
It's not that every class requires an iPad to to have the class in the class, but there are a lot of subjects where you need to do independent research. So the devices are important, and the way we try to make sure that we're one step ahead of the students is things like this.
Yeah.
Making sure that that we can shut off the things that we don't want them to use.
Yeah.
For example, so that's something that we've done.
Do you agree to Australia's ban of social media under 16?
I agree completely. I mean, I have seen so many of these researches and reviews of how social media is so bad for kids, and then you take the phone away for a day or a week, you just see them blossom so much more.
Absolutely.
Like, they are more outdoorsy, they're more communicative. Eye contact.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so important as a part of as being a human being.
Yeah.
Kids are constantly on their phones. There is no eye contact happening. There is no social skills. There's no.
Scary, right?
My kids are not getting a phone. I don't know about anyone else, but mine are not getting a phone, man. They.
You may have found yourself in a spot over children asking difficult or weird questions. And can you recall any situation like that?
So, it was not really a difficult question, but I think it was very important for us as a school, is that there was a bunch of kids that came to us and petitioned equality. Okay, so where I'm coming...
Gender?
Yeah.
Okay.
So where I'm coming from is being inclusive. Okay, so everyone, you are different from everyone has a different personality, a different outlook on life. So inclusivity is something that it's very easy to get lost in a school. So your individuality is something that needs to be respected. So we had these kids that came to us, and we actually started the symposium of inclusivity that we do every year at CIS. It's basically for awareness on all the different people that are out there, on being gender respectful, on just understanding that everyone is not like you.
Yeah.
And to each his own.
Yeah.
You have to respect a person for who he or she or they are, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that was very powerful, actually, that came from students saying that this is an area that we need support from you as a school. And I think inclusivity has become a very big part of our culture at CIS. Respect and inclusivity.
I like how you're saying that the students come up with this petition, and it's nice that they're able to speak their mind. And
a lot of our initiatives actually have been student led.
So, as educators, what's the one quality that should stand out in children, and how difficult it is to inculcate that in children?
So we have this whole concept of core values. Okay, we have 5 core values. We have integrity, inspiration, respect, caring, and joy. We actually organize all of our activities around these core values.
Okay.
Whether it's learning, whether it's assemblies, whether it's plays, drama, theatre, everything is around our core values.
Okay.
So trying to get the message across to the students in terms of these things that should define you as your core being is something I think we're doing very well. So these 5: integrity, inspiration, respect, caring, and joy. Every child on my campus knows, understands, imbibes imbibes it in their life. So even the little kids, so we came up with hand gestures, respect, integrity, so like caring, joy.
Yeah.
I mean, so that they understand and
Yeah,
relate as well,
yeah.
right? Like little kids also
Yeah.
need to understand these things. So we've done I think, continue to do, but I think so far done a pretty decent job on
Yeah, I
trying
love.
to imbibe these core
Yeah.
values in students. So there's not one, we have five.
And children sometimes are also a reflection of their teachers. That's huge responsibility.
Yeah.
So, what's your advice to the teachers?
So in term, I think their teachers are all role models, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that, we have to make sure that they understand as well. For
Yeah.
them, it's also a big responsibility. A lot of what kids are today, the way they speak, the way they dress, the way they react, the way they behave, is what they're seeing from the adult in the room,
Yeah.
essentially. So we do a lot of professional development with our staff, with the teachers, and make them understand again best practices and how they should be coming across, their body language, what is the way that they should be relating to a child. Even things like physical touch.
Yeah.
It's not all okay. You may do it innocently, but may be interpreted as something else. And a lot of PD professional development has to go into sort of these
Yeah.
aspects, because again the child is seeing you and understanding
Yeah.
how they should be, right?
So, coming to the most interesting part.
I love this part.
Yeah. So, as an athlete yourself, what do you like about sports? And tell us through about your journey about playing golf, about the Ironman.
So
Waiting to hear.
as growing up, I don't think I was much of an athlete. Yeah, I was on the basketball team for school and um, things like that. I learned golf at a very early age. I learned in grade 9 or grade 10, I learned to play golf. So that is something I used to do on weekends or evenings. And so, in terms of, I was always actually good at golf. Um, I was I, every time somebody saw my swing, or the way I was addressing a ball, or the way I would smack it also, they they would really compliment me. So I was like, okay, maybe there is something here. So I did play golf for a while. Um, in fact, in 2018, I got the first hole in one in Bolshire.
Wow. Congratulations.
It was, thank you. So my name is up there on the board, and it was at least I was told that it was their first hole in one as a course after they opened. So that's something that I'm quite proud of. And so golf has always been there, but it's never been like a full time gig.
Yeah.
It was always something that, okay, hey, we could play golf, let's go play golf. It was never, the thing that happened for me was COVID, right? During COVID, we were all trying to find a way to get out of the house, or just to not lose our brains, right? So the thing that happened in COVID was cycling for me. So I borrowed a bike from a friend and just started cycling. So we used to go every weekend. Bunch of us, actually, 15-ish of us, would just go to this place in North Bangalore. It was the Hesarghatta Lake. We just cycle around the lake just for fun. It was a 21-kilometer loop. It was nice. It was great. Some of us would run after that. Just the thrill of being outside the house. So that's how cycling started. And then for me, I think it just made me come alive. Just being on that bike, no one to call you for those 3-4 hours, no one to bother you. There's no like, hey, I have to take this call. No, there was nothing. It was just you and the cycle.
Yeah.
And friends around. So it was great fun. And so that's how it started. And then so this whole concept of Ironman came up a few months into my cycling journey. And there was this Ironman that was happening in Dubai. And I'm not a swimmer. 2022. I'm not a swimmer. I never learned how to swim as a kid. And I'm not a runner either. Like, so my strength was cycling. So we put together a team. there were three of us that did the relay together, Ironman 2022 Dubai. We'll never forget that race. Yeah, I can laugh about it now, but it was very, very traumatic for me. So I had probably done cycling for about 8 or 9 months before the Ironman, before race day. Um, so my swimmer finished her swim. She did a really good time. She did it in 37 minutes, I think. That's a 1.9 kilometer swim in 37 minutes. So she's come out. She's given me so it's a relay. You have to transfer the tag from you, timing chip from one person to another. So she's given me the timing chip. I put it on. I've gotten onto my cycle. I have to cycle 90 kilometers. And then my runner is waiting at the end of 90 kilometers to run a half marathon, which is 21K. So I've got on the cycle, very excited. My first Ironman. I'm around 3 or 4 kilometers. There was a flat, path that started, which is the point which you go onto your aero bars, which is the bars in front like that. So there's no access to the brakes on the side. You're just sitting and cycling in this position. The brakes are over here, so you have to actually take your arms off to put them on the bars that have the brakes. So I was in the aero position, and in Dubai, I was supposed to overtake only from the left. So one fellow overtook from the left, but at the same time, one more person overtook from the right. So I actually got sandwiched in the middle.
Yeah.
And when you're on an aerobars, you're cycling generally faster than you normally are. And then the disadvantage is you don't have that reaction time to get onto your brakes.
Yeah.
Which is what happened. So I have fallen. In that draft of high speed, I've fallen. I've fallen on my face. My entire face has gotten scraped. Dragged, like I've gotten dragged with my bike on the floor and then stopped at a point. So what I can see is, okay, the chain has come off. So the first instinct is, okay, let's replace the chain. So I've replaced, I put the chain back onto the system, and then I have gotten onto the bike and I've started cycling. And then I'm asking them, where is the aid station? I need a band-aid. I didn't know how bad it was. I need a band-aid. They said, there's nothing here. You have to cycle till 21 kilometers. So I have cycled. I don't know how bad it is. One or two of my friends actually overtook me because I wasn't able to go too fast. I was hurt. They actually overtook me, and it's like, what happened to your face? I was like, I don't know. I just had a fall. And then they've continued cycling. Like, you have to stop at the aid station. Something is wrong. Please check. So I reached 21K. I've cycled literally from 3 or 4.
And you were not bleeding?
I was profusely bleeding. I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
I mean, your adrenaline is pumping so much at that point. And I'm like, okay, kya hai? Must be a scratch. We'll go and fix it, So I've reached 21. I said, put a band-aid on me. Let's go. I'm ready to go. My runner's waiting. So they're like, here's a mirror. Please see what has happened to your face. You need medical help now. You need to get into the ambulance. You need to go get stitches. Otherwise, if you don't correct these things within a few hours, then the damage is worse. So I said, no, nothing doing. Yeah, my runner's waiting. I can't DNF this race. So I've called the race director. I said, you have to let my runner run. Otherwise, I'll finish this bike. I'll cycle till 90 from 21. Like, okay, please go to the ambulance. I will figure out your runner. So I've go to the ambulance, gone back to the medical tent at the Ironman site, and they've cleaned it up. They can see the bone here. The injury was that deep. Okay. So Dubai luckily is a land of plastic surgery, right? So we found a good plastic surgeon, gone there. That surgeon has taken 1 hour to stitch through all the layers of the skin before you reach the top. So I have a cut on my lip. I have 70 stitches here on my chin. And I'm asking him, Doc, how many stitches? Yeah, approximately 70. Okay, I mean, for you it's nothing, for me it's a big deal. So I think recovery after that was quite difficult because you're going through the mental trauma also. Like, why me? Why did this happen to me? What the hell? I was staying in my lane. I was not doing anything wrong to anybody. The guys that did this to me, even after complaining, nothing happened, right? So going that mental, process of why me was itself an, endless unanswered loop. it's nothing that you can answer for yourself, right?
It's-
And face, anywhere else in the body, I'd have been fine. This was my face. So it was very unpleasant.
But very, very
But
brave of you.
thank you. But so actually, I came back to Bangalore. Within 45 days, I got back on the cycle.
Oh.
It's like, this can't be my legacy. This is not my legacy. I'm not going to just like stop cycling because I had an accident. That's stupid. Got back on the cycle. Started cycling that same year. So this happened in March. That same year in Goa, Ironman was in, I think, November. I did the Goa Ironman. I did my 90 kilometers. This is like my redemption ride. It's like I had to go out there and prove to myself that I could do it. Forget anybody else. Prove to myself. Then after that, after Goa Ironman, I did an Ironman relay in France. And again, I was doing only relay formats because I'm not a swimmer or a runner. And my relay partner for France last minute couldn't make it. She had some family trouble. So I had to find somebody who didn't have a visa problem, who was trained enough to swim and run. So it was too many, variables that I had to solve for, and in last minute, right? So luckily, I found a relay partner, and he came with me. And then that same year again in December, I did the Goa. I mean November, I did the Goa Ironman, and at that point, I had a swimmer. I was a cyclist. My runner cancelled on me last minute. And before that, I had not run more than like 10K in my life, and in one single sitting. So after the 90-kilometer cycle, I had to pull out a 21-kilometer run without being a runner.
How did that go?
Oh, it was very difficult. I was crawling. It was very tough, but I finished within the cutoff time.
Oh, lovely.
So, but after that, I thought to myself, I said, look, you've done now 4 relay formats. Something or the other is not happening. Universe is not telling you, relay is okay for you. Maybe you should do one Ironman triathlon by yourself. That requires to swim, right? And I didn't learn swimming as a kid. I'm not a swimmer. I have no concept of swimming. But I started learning how to swim in April, I think, March or April. And then in 5 months, I did my solo Ironman in September of this year.
How did that go? I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. It was, first of all, something huge for me to have accepted only because I didn't know how to swim. When I signed up for the race, I had no idea how to swim at all. I was like, acha, theek hai, it's okay, we'll do it. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. So learning how to swim, there were a lot of times when I was thinking to myself, like, this is not going to happen. You're being extra ambitious. My trainer told me, are you stupid? You don't know how to swim. How did you sign up for an Ironman? I was like, yeah, I'll do it. But no, it was the journey of learning to swim. It was very, very difficult. It's not something I enjoy even today.
But you've been pushing your limits.
But just keep pushing. You can do it. Make sure that this is something I wanted to do for myself, right? Like, just to show myself that I can do it.
Yeah.
And
prove yourself.
So learned in 5 months, went to Italy. So the cutoff time for the swim portion of your Ironman is 1 hour and 10 minutes. I have gotten into the water. There are 3,500 people in the water at the same time. Okay, people have swum on top of me twice. And at that point, you're like, somebody's on top, you can't breathe, you're panicking. There's just no concept of like sanity left, right? With so many people. And everyone is like trying to swim the shortest distance.
Yeah. They're all over you.
They veered completely to the left. I said, you want to swim? You please swim. Find somebody else to swim on top of. It's not going to be me today. But I have questioned my entire life's choices between heaven and water in that 1 hour. It was really, really difficult. I was stopping. I was like, okay, there are these jet skis if you want to leave. Like, should I just board one of those and leave? This is not my cup of tea. But somehow, cut-off timing 1 hour 10 minutes, I finished in 1 hour. I have come out of that water looking like I was hit by a bus. It was so difficult for me. People outside waiting, my friends and family waiting were like, where is she? because it has a tracking chip. The tracking chip showed me on the on the land.
Oh.
And here I'm not come out of the water.
Yeah.
They're like, something is wrong. What's
Yeah,
going on?
yeah.
But anyway, I've come out of the water looking like completely dejected. The next one is the bike. Now that's my strength.
Mm-hmm.
Changed into the cycling gear, whatever. Gotten on the cycle and just gotten out of there so fast. Like I started cycling at 30 kilometers an hour. I was just that happy to get away from the water. It's like, swim is done. I made it in the cutoff time. Cycled. It was a great ride. I made some really good time. And then after the cycle was a 21K run. Lots of cramping because by that point,
Yeah.
you know, body's
Do
fatigued
things,
completely.
yeah.
Lots of cramping. It was 3 loops of 7K. I think on the third loop, the highlight was there was this 2 or 3 people on the side with an Indian flag. Okay, they're just cheering every Indian that went. I mean, there were only 6 or 7 Indians on that course that day, but it was so nice to see the flag and, you know, the way they cheered you, saying your name and your country, and it was just that was something that really pushed me to keep me going to the finish line. Yeah, and then I finished in 7 hours and 13 minutes. I wanted to do 7, but the swim was not easy. I don't think I could have changed much about that.
No, but it's
Yeah, I
great.
finished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you felt good about
Very,
it.
very excited
Yeah.
and happy about having accomplished that. Yeah.
I want to ask you, how did your children react to the Dubai accident? And were they supportive? Did they help in your recovery, family?
So when I came back, they were not with me in Dubai. When I
Yeah.
came back from Dubai and they saw it. It was actually under a band-aid, but when the band-aid came out,
Yeah.
they saw it. They were quite traumatized actually. Very concerned, very upset by the whole thing, and you know, how is it going to look once it's better? How fast is it going to heal? Things like that. Lots of questions. And then when I actually did the Goa race that same year in November, one of my sons is like, you know, he was telling the other son, you know, in Dubai she broke her face, but today she finished her race. So it was something that is really, I mean, it gave me goosebumps at that point. And today when I think of it, it's like, wow, okay. They were with me in Goa for the redemption race, like I like to call it. But yeah, I mean, I think seeing me not give up, that's something that's actually really sat well with them. I think they were much younger. It was 2-3 years ago. So the teacher had actually asked them something about their parents and what they find the most awesome about. So my one son was like, she never gives up. So I like, you know, being that sort of a role model
Yeah.
for them, where they can actually be inspired by
That's big
what I'm
victory.
doing. Yeah, I mean, it makes us both feel good. Right?
Yeah.
They feel good, I feel good. It's a win-win. So just seeing my journey, and you know, now when I go on cycling weekends, say for example, a ride on a Saturday morning, I'm like, "Oh, how long did you ride? How fast was your speed? What was your route?"
So you've been drawn to sports, passionate about it. Do you also emphasize it in your school?
Yeah, so we have a lot of school teams for all the different types of the sports that we have. But something that I want to start is triathlons
Yeah.
in schools, like inter-school triathlon competitions.
That'd be something new, actually.
I don't think anybody's done it,
Yeah.
right? So that's something that I want to start, and we're actually just renovating our swimming pool facility. So once that's ready, and I'm excited to get this going. It'll be really nice. I mean,
Yeah.
very small format, short
Yeah.
swim, short cycle, short run,
Yeah.
but at least it's a triathlon. So
Yeah.
that's something that I'm quite excited to be able to start. So we have this thing called Multicultural Day, something that we came up with as a concept because we have so many communities
Yeah.
from all over the world. On Multicultural Day, we have this whole celebration of all of the cultures. So every community has a stall. They will show you the games that they play in their country, the food that is traditional to their country, their sort of celebrations of festivals and holidays and things like that. So Multicultural Day is like a very nice celebration where you get to learn a lot
Yeah.
about different other cultures.
And in a fun way. Yeah.
In a fun way, you get to showcase your own culture.
Yeah.
You get to eat food from various parts of the world.
Yeah.
There are cute games also that are so typical for different communities and cultures. So it's a learning as well as a fun sort of game. So that's another tradition that we actually really enjoy as a community as CIS.
So you became the first woman president of the Entrepreneurs Organization in 2022-23. What was the kind of leadership skills that led you to do that, and what did you learn?
When I joined EO Entrepreneurs Organization in 2015, I was the first woman, and I was the only woman.
Yeah.
Amongst 83 men. Okay. So I was like, hey, what is happening here? You know, why the hell aren't more women part of this organization?
But you're used to it.
But it's come on, yeah. Like what the hell? So then I had this opportunity to join the board, and I tried to make sure I got more women enrolled in EO, right? So very slowly progressed, but now I think we're up to about 25 women at EO as members of EO. So in my journey, like so in 2015 I joined. So in EO they have this thing called the track. So you have to become co-membership chair, the co-learning chair, then the learning chair, then you become the president. So it's a 4-year commitment, and after president again you become membership chair. So totally 5 years. So I even remember the conversations, like the outgoing president would twice actually, 2 outgoing presidents tried and said, come on, become the president of EO, and it'll be so great for you to be the first woman president of EO Bangalore. And, by that point I was like, yeah, maybe there is something there. I want to make a difference. I want to break this glass ceiling and this whole stereotype that EO is only men. Let's do it. So I started, I joined the track. I did those 3 years before president year, and my president year was actually just after COVID. Yeah, maybe a year or two after COVID. Lot of learnings. Some lessons I don't think I needed. I really don't think I needed some lessons. But everyone's an alpha male, right? Everyone wants to get their voice heard, and it's like my way or the highway. And then here you had a woman trying to help an organization. It was definitely not easy. Like I said, a lot of lessons that I learned, but a lot of them I don't think I needed. They were not nice.
So, any one lesson you could tell us?
I think managing a room of people who are all entrepreneurs and who are all have similar journeys like you, and different ideologies and different thought processes nonetheless, but trying to get them
ego clashes?
A lot of ego clashes. Oh, major ego clashes. Right? Trying to get them on board to see your vision and your plan was very difficult. But it happened. Definitely did happen. So it was a good experience overall.
So wanted to ask you, physical activity versus classroom work, how should it be divided?
I think both are equally important.
Yeah.
Definitely equally important. A lot of discipline and a lot of outlook comes into our own person's personality through the physical activity and the things they learn, for example, from team sports.
Yes.
Or from your individual sports, like even things like golf, which is an individual sport, can teach you a lot about discipline. Triathlons, of course. I mean, it's very important for you to be able to develop discipline and grit and perseverance and things like that. But at the same time, that time outside the classroom helps you focus better inside.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a blend of both. Both are very, very equally important. And you can't really advocate one for the other.
And what is CI's, what sports team are you very proud of from the school?
So our swim team has competed at very different international competitions. I think I'm very, very proud of that for sure. If you had asked me to pick one team, I'd pick my swim team for sure.
How do you deal with slow learners?
So we have a learning support department. See, in terms of, like I said, counselors are expected to have touch
With
points with
everyone.
every child
Yeah.
on campus. Doesn't matter. So initially, they will pick it up that hey, this child needs support in learning. Then we have a dedicated learning support department that takes care of various, learning needs that students have. I wouldn't call it disability. It's just, different children have different needs and have to find ways to help them cope with. So we have a robust learning support team, and we work very closely with specialized education plans for them if that's something that's required. Additional support, having a shadow teacher with them if that's something that's required as well. It's there. Again, we try to keep at the cutting edge of what is best within that realm of things as well. So making sure that we do justice to the child
Yeah.
for their own well-being, right? So we don't take kids if we don't think we can serve them. And a learning support department will make that decision if somebody is coming in with a history of learning disability. As well, if after it's discovered on campus, we feel that we don't know how best to serve you, we will recommend places that the child can go to. There are a lot of options available.
How do you test the aptitude of a child? What standard practices do you follow?
So we have this thing called map testing.
Okay.
We do it twice a year. So at the
Mhm.
beginning of the year, maybe in the first or second month of the year, as well as at the end of the year. So every child on campus goes through map testing.
What is this map test?
So it's basically like you said, an aptitude test.
Mhm.
For example, grade 2 map test. It's where a student anywhere in the world in grade 2 should be at that point.
Okay.
So the questions are catered and planned according to that. So it's a standardized test that just we run on campus. And so every child will do within I think the first or second month of school, and then towards the end of the year. So you can actually chart it. What does a child learn? What does the growth look like? Compare it from the first 1 or 2 months of the school year towards the end of the year.
Okay.
And it's like a global metric. So it gives us a lot of insights into what are the teachers doing, how do we know, and then how the student is learning, how do we serve them better. A lot of data points come through map testing for that.
Nice, very nice. What are some of the initiatives you've planned for the school, and what is the future plan for it?
One of the things I'm excited about, like I said, is this triathlon inter-school
Yeah.
competition
Yeah.
that I hopefully somehow
Yeah.
make it happen.
Yeah.
The other thing that I also mentioned briefly is that we're constructing indoor basketball court, like a proper gym. It's a sports facility. We're going to call it the game changer because it'll have pickleball, basketball, swimming, badminton, things like that. And we're just renovating a swimming facility, building on top of that, and having these sports as well added to the gamut of things that we already do. So that's something that I'm very excited about. Hopefully, ready by February, and then I can launch my triathlon inter-school competition. But in terms of expansion, I'm looking at hopefully Hyderabad. We did a lot of extensive research into Bombay. It doesn't look like it's going to work out. So I'm going to try and look at Hyderabad. And there were 1 or 2 opportunities that came through in Dubai as well. So let's see.
That should be interesting, actually.
Yeah, because Dubai needs kids are on wait list like for years before they get to a school.
Yeah.
So you definitely need schools. So let's see.
What about entering higher education segment?
That was actually a pipe dream at one point, but I don't think it's a very different ballgame. I did a lot of research and it's a very different ballgame. I had this whole concept of having like a central courtyard which would house the entire accommodation, and then universities around that. So like maybe uh, all from like different parts of the way. I actually even spoke to McGill from Canada to come and do their India campus here with us. Didn't work through. Anyway, so different like international universities, central complexes where they stay, and then the kids go off to school, and it's all housed in one sort of large, project.
Yeah.
No.
At least
Not
you
yet,
tried.
maybe not.
Yeah.
I don't know, at some point in the future.
Thank you so much, Shweta. I had
Thank
such
you
a
for
good
having
time
me. Thank you
talking to
so much.
you.